everybody, and welcome to this Friday, August 21st episode of Trade the Chain. We have our analysts here, CJ and Monty from Market Rebellion. They're from the crypto arm, so they're really crypto rebels. But we do have one man down today, one of our co-hosts, Ryan Gorman, who is enjoying a much-needed end of summer family holiday, but he'll be back next week with us on Friday. You know, busy times in the market. We have a lot to go over today, and you know, CJ and Monty are going to run everybody through it. So let's go directly. Let's just dive right into the markets, guys.
All right, yeah, I'll bring up some Bitcoin TA then. So what we discussed a little bit last week was this weekly 4 candle kind of ending with a green hammer candle. And what we wanted to see was a candle body close above this previous green 4 candle. And we got that. So that was like creating a new high and closing above it on a weekly perspective. So from a weekly and more macro perspective, that's promising. It does look as if the bull trend will continue for the interim. Now moving more to like a daily perspective, the daily perspective isn't telling us a whole lot after we were rejected at 12,400. So for instance, if you're trading with the sequential indicator, this would have given you, this green 2 right here would have given you a buy signal when it closed above the previous green 1. And like on the weekly chart, we have a nice bullish hammer candle on this green 2, which immediately led to, you know, this green 3. So if you would have taken that trade based on sequential, you would have been able to nail the direction right off the bat. Now, unfortunately, we ran into resistance at 12,400 and were ejected back down. So we're kind of in this no trade zone, and not a whole lot is happening right now. We want to remain in that channel for the bulls still to have a chance. But ultimately, if we can get above 12,400, the only resistance we have remains at the previous high of 14K. So in terms of resistance, it's looking very good for the bulls because there isn't a whole lot. And, you know, if we just look at the trend collectively, it is bullish. You know, we are going up, and this massive consolidation phase that we've kind of had from 11,000 to 12,000 over the past couple of weeks, it's kind of forming a bull flag with, you know, the remnants of this 9. So it is a bullish formation, and we could easily go up and test 12,400 again, and then hopefully 14K. But there is not like, there's nothing standing out as a signal that's telling you necessarily to buy or sell currently.
CJ, when we went into the 12,000 plus range earlier, what are your thoughts on why we just couldn't surpass that, and we're starting to bounce off that level?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's an actual reason. It's just we've had a lot of strong resistance at 12,400, and it may take a couple attempts before the bulls can actually break above it. So yeah, we were rejected, but the bulls are going to have to, you know, regain some momentum and retest that 12,400 area.
Yeah. I mean, also I know that we've over the last week or so, we're showing a lot of open interest in options. I mean, that could be an indicator of some of the price movements that's happening with Bitcoin as well. Now, with regard to Ethereum, which has just been on a tear, what can you say to that, and any guidance to what we're looking for in the short term?
Yeah, Ethereum, it's looking much different than Bitcoin, which is kind of refreshing, right? Like we're used to them kind of being so closely correlated, but now I think with the boom in DeFi, we're really starting to see a reason for this divergence between Ethereum and Bitcoin. And yeah, it's tough to say where Ethereum is headed, but I'm still very bullish on Ethereum. I know the network fees are high and there are scalability issues right now, but once those issues are overcome, I really do think that much like Bitcoin, there is much less upward resistance than there is downward support. So I think there's good reason to be bullish on Ethereum right now.
Yeah, I mean, Ethereum is just, it's been ripping, and its returns are, outpacing a lot. And, who knows, maybe it's due to the underpinnings of all the DeFi projects and everything going on. So obviously a lot of use cases for Ethereum at the moment. Let's just, while we're at the charts, let's just jump into our hot or not tickers of the week. It's been kind of wild with a few of them. I mean, the first one that I'm going to bring up is OMG, OmiseGo. And, one of the things with OMG that is, kind of taken a front seat here in the news cycle is it has increased near over double in a week's time. Another thing is that an interesting statistic is that the price of OMG since Black Thursday back in March has risen nearly 1,000%. What is all the noise going on around this coin?
Yeah, it's been crazy, and I think a lot of what this has to do with is what we talked about with Ethereum and the DeFi boom. So, I mean, in hindsight, looking back on this, I mean, I should start by saying that I wasn't long OMG, so I didn't. I mean, all of this in hindsight is very obvious, but
I don't think many people were, to be honest with you.
yeah, no. But looking back, I think it really was the perfect storm for this coin to just take off because, like you mentioned, Ethereum network fees were so high. We had DeFi explode in the last 2 weeks. And there was also rumors that Ethereum's ETH 2.0, their new iteration that would make the blockchain much more scalable, that actually crashed last week. So they're looking very closely for second layer solutions. And OMG is a promising solution for that. And like we talked about, Ethereum's network fees are crazy high right now, and they're consistently high. I mean, they've spiked in the past, but for them to stay so consistently high is alarming for Ethereum holders, and a solution is necessary. So yeah, OMG has skyrocketed, and I think it can go even higher if it does fill that need that that Ethereum's looking for.
Yeah, and folks, we're talking 30% roughly in the last 24 hours. It gone up before sort of contracting and stabilizing here. But real quickly, Monty, when it comes to Ethereum 2.0 and the whole gas hike that's going on, is 2.0 looking promising? Or is this going to create a catalyst where people are starting to look for a different route?
No, I think 2.0 is still looking promising, and I think the great thing about Ethereum is that there's always so many talented developers working on solving these scalability issues and also working on second layer solutions like OMG. So I think with this many like bright minds working on it, I do think there are solutions that are possible. I know that Wednesday Tether, which is a gas guzzler, said that it was launching on OMG network, so it could kind of take some pressure off that base layer. So yeah, I think these high transaction fees will eventually decrease, and scalability will be okay eventually.
All right, very cool. Well, on to the next, and this one is going to be a not ticker for the week, and that is ETC. Ethereum Labs or Ethereum Classic has, they've had some attempted 51% attacks, which in its own right is very, very, worrisome. But not only that, it's starting to take hold with the exchanges. So we have OKEX that is now, pretty much threatening to delist Ethereum Classic. And Ethereum Classic has been a staple, more or less, in the top rung of cryptocurrencies as far as how long it's been around. CJ, what's going on with this coin?
Yeah, I mean, Ethereum Classic, fundamentally, I think they never should have called themselves Ethereum Classic because they're kind of riding Ethereum's coattails, and they're known as like the older Ethereum. But anyways, the core development team of Ethereum Classic shut down about a year and a half ago due to a lack of funding. So there really isn't that much active development going on in this cryptocurrency. So essentially, It's just like this ghost of a coin that is sitting on various exchanges and being traded. And if OKEX, if they delist Ethereum Classic, that's going to be detrimental because we've seen this before with other projects. Do you guys remember Salt Lending?
Yep, absolutely.
So that was one that was on Binance, and Binance did the majority of their volume. And the SEC decided to go after Salt in around 2018. And Salt was in a bull market during this particular time. It went from from 50 cents to 70 cents. But then once the SEC went after it, Binance decided to delist Salt from their exchange. And instantly, Salt went from about 70 cents to below 10 cents. And it's never gotten above 20 cents in the last 2 years since then. So if they delist Ethereum Classic, it could be very, very detrimental, especially considering the majority of the volume is coming from Asia, from OKEX. So kind of taking a lesson from history, it's not really looking good if they choose to go down that road. Now, granted, you can still trade it on Coinbase and Voyager and some of the American exchanges, but it would be a very, very traumatic blow if they lost, their listing on OKEX.
Do you think if they do lose their listing on OKEX that others are going to follow suit as well? Is that going to be a systemic thing, or is it really just the individual? It won't hurt their listing on the individual exchanges.
It's up to each exchange, depending on the amount of money, whether or not they're profitable. Personally, I would like to see all exchanges delist Ethereum Classic, because when you're an exchange or a brokerage, you have a moral obligation, at least in my mind, to be providing your clients with relatively safe products. Now, I'm not saying, obviously cryptocurrencies go down, but I'm talking about having an actual network that's compromised, something like IOTA, where the network goes down for 2 weeks, or something where with Ethereum Classic, where a 51% attack comes in and somebody takes $5.6 million of value out of the network. Like if I was an exchange operator, I wouldn't have those assets listed, because you should be, like I said, you should have a moral obligation to protect your customers.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, as we've been on prior and that's been touched on, the exchanges do have that obligation. They work for the customer, not the other way around. Now, is Ethereum Classic, is this essentially a ghost ship at this point then? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I'm not aware of any significant developments which have occurred in the last year on Ethereum Classic. So, and it's not the only one, right? Like there's a lot of other currencies that really, they're just sitting on an exchange and they're not really being actively worked on, like Vertcoin, or, a lot of these others, like proof of stake coins that just haven't been secure. They've gotten 51% attacked, and unfortunately, a lot of the development teams have been forced to just pack up and go home over the course of the bear market.
I don't think a lot of people, a lot of the retail people realize that, so maybe someone should start a website like GoShipCoins.com or something, because, and if you do, you owe me something. But just because, when you're the average Joe or something, you may not know those stories. There's so many coins, right? And a lot of people have day jobs. They can't even really keep up to speed with, what development teams are strong and what have actually just gone home. So, I mean, that's definitely going to be one to watch and see how that works out. One final question on that. In the case of a development team abandoning ship like that, and this is probably one of the more like high profile coins, is there ever a chance that coin can be saved or resurrected? Is there any chance that someone can bring a band together and kind of continue down the project's path?
Yeah, I mean, theoretically they could, because it's an open source product or a project, but I don't see the advantage of creating on Ethereum Classic versus just selecting something new like Ethereum 2.0.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Well, we're on to the last hot or not ticker of the week, and this one again is a knot. So 2 knots to one hot, and this not ticker is Link, which has been on the hot side of this call for, I mean, how many weeks, right? It's just had a tremendous parabolic uprise. But, you know, as we film this, you know, right now, it's recovered a little. It was down as much as 18% today. We're looking at 11% down right now. What's the story with this, guys? Has it lost its momentum? Is it just some people taking profits? What's going on?
Yeah, so this is a really interesting one, and I definitely think this coin has been massively overbought for about a week now, since that 9 that we're looking at on the daily chart. And I have a pretty interesting fundamental take on this. It's not so technical, but um, you probably have heard of Dave Portnoy, the eccentric founder of Barstool Sports.
Hold on a second. I think you know, a big fair chunk of the world knows about him buying, you know, matter of fact, we addressed it on last week's episode, I think. Did we not, CJ?
Yeah, the Portnoy top.
Yeah, the $50,000 he put into Link, he became an official Link Marine. And are you telling me that the world has conspired around putting him down and having him lose money?
No. I don't think it's that. I think it's more so that he actually is an incredibly influential trader. And I mean, if you just look at his army of followers that have been following him on Robinhood and just buying calls mindlessly, I mean, I think the same thing happened here on this day. I mean, obviously, Link has been performing well for a while, so there is merit to this performance. But I think that stuff like this does happen where a trader with a massive following that doesn't know anything about the project, which is fine. He doesn't need to know anything about the project to profit off it. I'm sure he made a great profit. He probably sold at that 8 at the top, and most of his followers probably didn't. They're probably still holding. But I just think that this is a prime example of a coin getting overhyped just by being in the mainstream too much. And it just went way beyond its actual value. And now we're just starting to see it correct back to that value. And like you said, today has been a really rough day. But I mean, that's what happens when you have days like we had last week where it was up. It was massively up on like that 9 and that 4. So we're going to have, I'm sure a few more rough days are ahead for Link as well.
Now, you know, when we were up on those big days, we were at the $20 mark. Our basically, you know, what we've seen is a retraction of nearly over 26% since that time. Is 20 the top, or are we going to keep going? What are your thoughts about that? Or is this just going to lose steam and bottom out?
I think 20 is definitely the short-term top, but I don't think it's going to bottom. I think it'll bottom out short-term, but I think this is kind of the opposite case of Bitcoin, really, where there's strong resistance at the top at $20. I think that's a really strong resistance level, and even with this massive bearish momentum, it was not able to break through. So I think it'll be a while before it even retests that $20 range. But I think a reversion back down to like $10. I think it could stabilize around there, and eventually, in the long term, it could retest $20 and break through. But I think that's a long way off.
Would you say it's a hold for now, or a buy, or a sell? Let's just put you on the spot with it.
Put right now at $14, I would still say it's a sell.
Okay.
I might consider buying back in at $10 to $8, somewhere in that range. I don't think you really have to worry about this coin taking off anytime soon and blasting through the $20 resistance level. So yeah, for me, it's still a sell.
Okay, very good. Well, here we are. We're going to do a viewer question of the day, and we have one. And it's from James Sampson. It was left in the comment section of last week's episode. So if anybody does have any questions they want to ask the analysts, please feel free, put them in the comment section, and we'll try to get to it more than likely. So James Sampson, it's a two-part question. The first part is curious to hear your thoughts about this supermassive bull run that's coming. I've been hearing how a lot of coins for a short period of time pumped 50x, and was wondering if you can see something similar happening again. I don't know which one of you want to grab that, but are we looking to see a bull run? And if we are, what kind of time frames?
Yeah, I think to kind of take this back full circle with where CJ started with his analysis on Bitcoin, I think we can kind of take away a lot from what he said about the support and resistance levels. And I think last week we talked about the stock to flow model and how Bitcoin is a truly scarce asset. And I think that just with all this quantitative easing going on in traditional financial markets, we've even seen gold spiking. I think there is a great argument to be made that the ceiling for Bitcoin is so much higher than its potential bottom. So I think 10K is great support right now. And like CJ mentioned earlier, there is not much strong resistance above. So a massive bull run is totally possible within the next year. And it could coincide with a traditional market crash, or it could be catalyzed by something else. But I think it's coming. I think it's coming.
And if I can add one thing to that,
Yeah.
you know, 50x is quite a bit, and Bitcoin doesn't really mathematically have enough capital to drive it 50x in the next market cycle. Like I at most I could see it doing a 5x or 10x in the next market cycle. But when it comes to those lower cap cryptocurrencies, yeah, if you have a cryptocurrency in the tens of millions of dollars of market cap and Bitcoin goes into this massive bull market, then ultimately Bitcoin, if more money comes into the space, then Bitcoin will be the tidal wave that lifts all ships. So
Yeah, and listen. We're always gonna have those coins here or there, whether it's the OmiseGos or the Chainlinks, that are gonna have those short-term parabolic spurts, right? And I always view, if you're gonna be in a one of those mid or low cap coins that happens to do that, it's more often than not for short-term gain, as opposed to Bitcoin, where it's a long-term hold. All right, so the second part of his question, lastly, what about the utility of Chainlink's token is limited if everything were to eventually migrate to on the chain?
So admittedly, I have no idea what the value of Chainlink will do if everything is moved back on chain. Nevertheless, what I can say with great certainty is, after talking to some of the most competent technicians and engineers in the space, going back on chain is not feasible or even possible. And we kind of had this scaling debate in 2017 with Bitcoin Cash. They tried to do their scaling on chain, and unfortunately it led to a lot of problems, and such as mining centralization. So the ways in which these blockchains are intended to scale, or what people are building for them with intention to scale, is off-layer, second-layer solutions. Things like the Lightning Network for Bitcoin, and things like Radon or Plasma for Ethereum. So I would say it's very low chance that we go on-chain with those transactions.
All right, very good. Well, folks, that's it for this week's market that's it for this week's market wrap up, and thank you for joining us. Again, if you have any questions or want to ask CJ and Monty anything, hit us up in the comments. We'll do it on air, as well as if you look in the description below on this, you will see all the information for marketrebellion.com/crypto. Market Rebellion is the firm of the great John and Pete Najarian from CNBC, and they have a whole crypto army over at that firm, which includes CJ and Monty. So definitely check that out. Until then, we'll see you next Friday. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.